Lore, a podcast.
It's the best. Welcome back. Let's talk lore. Today, we're talking gods and how you how you play them, how you have them
How you bring
influence
them
your
into the
games. Yeah,
world.
and what do they do? Like, Chris, take it away. I
So,
am interested to answer some of the questions that you prepared for this one because I don't
so,
know. Yeah, go ahead.
well, not every world, but most fantasy worlds, they have their pantheon, and you have your
Sure.
gods and your clerics, your paladins, and uh, your warlocks, and all their patrons and very magically powerful creatures in the universe. And they often have influences in the world of like their churches, or they come down as an avatar, or um, direct interventions, or how they truly interact with the world at large.
So in the one in Agot Doomhand and the Skulls of Power, our homebrew campaign, the
Hmm.
gods are sort of the way that as the DM, the gods are sort of there's a myth of them, and I wouldn't have them interact like divine intervention. I wouldn't do a divine intervention. That's my like you can do that for sure, but I like my perspective. I like how the NPCs and the world building aspect of a god influences the game. So like this whole cult is built around like worshiping this one dude, and you're obviously going to have a dungeon with that, and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
That's like a huge influence that I take from them. But I think you're talking about something a little bit different. I think like um, are you talking like more of like a PC, like uh, interacting with a spirit, sort of, or are you talking about maybe like the actual like the god of murder comes down and Baal is there? Like I think they all have to be in avatar form, no?
Well, it depends on if your world keeps them out or they choose to stay out on their own. Like there's some worlds where there's a barrier that gods can't physically get through and get to the place except in avatar form, or some minimized action, or like through another living being. Um, or you could just have the god of murder come down
Well, let me
and he has a
let
stat
me
block.
I'm going to ask you a question and give you a second to think
Yeah.
about it while I tell a little bit about the way I do gods here. But here's the question: what is an example of a situation in a game that you've played where a god has chimed in some way? Now, my in our game, and as I said that before, my game is more of like the gods are get their power in my world, in my universe, in Dungeons and Dragons. The god gets the power from belief, and so that's why I enjoy the gods and having that sort of like Greek mythology. I always loved just stealing from them,
Hmm.
um, because if one group believes in Athena, you're gonna that group is gonna be tailored towards wisdom. Versus like if another person likes Hephaestus, if you remember, he was the Greek god of like iron making and making weapons. Like they're gonna be more like um, Lone Star, the the creator, right?
Hmm.
Or and so on and so forth. So like it's like the gods in my world, they help you world build a little bit. Um, but I think that I haven't really had a situation where there's been like a spirit or like a some sort of like
Well, there are many ways gods can talk to mortals. Um, one that I've seen and I thought was beautiful was in dreams or when you're unconscious, like one that just happened, I think, yeah, 2 weeks ago. Um, Player went down and he had some previous connection with a god and made a deal with the god, kind of like a warlock patron, or just had the conversation with the god, or whatever representation in the dream, and made some promise and came back after being dead.
Who came?
Or
Who came? So,
the player character, like so the player character dies in
oh,
combat, like
oh,
dies in combat, and but he was already from prior in the campaign uh touched by a god in some way, so there's some connection to
that's
the
really
god
cool.
there. God was
So
trying to gain influence on them, and at that time the god came in and said, okay, here's your chance.
that's really awesome. So we have world building. We have essentially like player, not just player engagement. Yeah, player engagement, and interactivity with like, essentially it's like a long side quest. Okay, your
Mhm.
guy dies or they have a dream or you see you're in a temple and one of you rolled your d4, I guess, or d5 or whatever it is,
Yeah.
has this weird outer body experience where a deal is made and like now you
Mhm.
have to go on a now you're drawn to go on this quest. That's really cool. That's so gods can be a way of helping you almost game prep for that for the next couple of sessions in a sense, right?
Potentially.
And also change player personalities, maybe,
Well,
and
I think you
alignments,
have to
maybe.
be careful when you do that.
Yeah,
You can't just like everyone walks into the room. All right, roll me a
yeah,
d4. All right, you get singled out
yeah.
for your whole character's life to change.
Yeah, Aaron has a flash, uh, and all of a sudden he's very very generous and gives his stuff away for the. He's not gonna do that. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, you can set things up like that. But like, what do you? So when we ran the uh, Centra, the desert town where all the
Hmm.
centaurs were. They were all predominantly in the desert. They were all worshiping Shar.
Hmm.
I had the Shar priestess there, and I was building up this big dark ceremony. Once a month, they all get together and they have I forgot what it was. It was the night of
Oh yeah.
the night ceremony or something.
Yeah, I can't
The
remember.
moon ceremony or something like that. And they sacrifice to the Lady of Shard, which is actually, I think, I played it similar to the actual Forbidden Realms. I was reading
Lore
about
of it.
that. Yeah, the lore. And then things didn't go so well for Mike, who was playing Everett, and all of a sudden Lady Shar's
Ivo.
avatar, yeah, Ivo, not Everett, Ivo, all of a sudden Lady Shar's avatar showed up. And like, what do
Mm-hmm.
you do in that situation? You book it. You get the you get the hell out of there if you're level 5. Like that's my
Unless you're Lone Star and you fly into her shoulder and start hitting on her telepathically.
yes, yeah. Well, you got to roll your 20s, but um it's a good way to gods can be used by dungeon masters and players in role playing. I think,
Hmm.
like, you maybe you're not very good at role playing and you need a little bit of help to get into your character. Well, you're a worshiper of XYZ. Boom, like that's the or you don't like those gods or those people that worship that and so on and so forth.
Or another way of direct influence, God can just hurl a meteor or
Right.
make some massive explosion in the world, blow up a town,
Right. There's an infinite
create
number.
chaos.
Yeah. So the real God is for what you're talking about with the randomness, is a good old fashioned random encounter table. Divine intervention. You guys
Hmm.
um, get to an area, perhaps I ask you too many riddles that are boring because I ran it in a non-engaging way, and based on the last Let's Talk Lore session, I will no longer do that. But the way that I was running them was just asking you what a riddle was, and you guys would boringly not get it right and fail. Well, guess what? Maybe God, whoever it is, rolls an encounter table, and the room gets swarmed with live weapons. You know,
Yeah.
because Hephaestus, as we were to bring it back to Hephaestus, he's sitting there making shields and shit, and
Yeah.
they could be alive. They could be NPCs, right?
That's true.
Yeah. But gods, yeah, to me, um, the way to play gods, the way that I've enjoyed it as the DM of the forever DM of our game is to use them to world build. Essentially, I think it's such an amazing, easy, somewhat way to world build, especially if like, dude, I don't know what's going on in those mountains. I don't know. You guys could decide. You know what? Okay, the city sucks. Let's go somewhere else. And like, well, guess what, Spence? I gotta spend the week creating a realm. And you know what? If they worshipped a specific thing, it doesn't even have to be a god for that matter. If they worshipped a specific thing, build like it's so much easier to build around that. And then like the
Mhm.
encounter tables that you have, and the items that you find, and ultimately the dungeon that's there, or the monsters that there, can all revolve around that. That's unique. Um, and that's why I think that the gods in the way that I do it, um, can help do that. But also, like you're you're saying, it can be a way to like randomly change the way the game's rolling, the way
The gods have their own
yeah.
wills and desires, and whatever your big bad evil guy is doing, the gods are doing
Do,
their own stuff too.
do you think that it is worthwhile to discuss with the players beforehand how intense gods are going to interact with the world?
I, I
Because
would
I
think, yeah. I mean, if you're going to be going a lot more involved, or at least the backstory of it, or like the history of the world, of like, is there a history of gods intervening so they know what to expect?
yes, interesting.
So it could be, yeah, like the gods intervene, but it's so rare. And oh, hey, you guys just happen to be during that rare period.
Yeah. And what do you think about our Agoth Doomhand Skulls of Power homebrew campaign? Do you think that
Oh,
that is heavily God interactive?
well, I think it's God referenced
Right.
because we've never like we've seen the Avatar Shar at a temple doing a ceremony to summon said Avatar, and we failed, so it can't appeared.
Yeah, it's interesting because you guys had like, I guess our session zero, which we didn't really have. I can't really remember that far back, but I think you
Our
guys.
session zero was Trivium One
Yeah, session zero was.
room.
I got to figure out how to DM this room. Um, I think you guys decided that, and I think everyone decided that it was going to be you have your magical world and your non-magical world. So you could like DM, and keep in mind gods are some sort of like, keep that in like a magical sphere, right? So
Mhm.
the more godly and interactive it is, probably the more magical the world might be. Or maybe not. Maybe that's the
Yeah.
entire power of it. But that's how I would think of it. We decided that it was going to be like a medium. So like, here's Lord of the Rings, where it's not very magical. There's not that much magic. There's a wizard, he can cast spells. There's a bad guy who,
but
but it's
rare.
really not, yeah, very rare. Versus like
Mhm.
X-Men or whatever that you just sort
Yeah.
of shoot out missiles and stuff.
Mhm.
But the whole story of Doomhand and his revenge against the gods is based on divine intervention and suffering
Yeah.
caused by these 4 or 5 gods. So the
Mhm.
fact that he's going out and trying to kill the gods is, I gotta, maybe I just had an epiphany. Just this whole entire Let's Talk lore. Maybe I need to world build around that. Have people, maybe there are more than just believers. Maybe there are
Yeah.
Doomhand people that want to just stop. Maybe they want to join alliances with Doomhand because he's cleansing the world of so many gods, so many people that believe in the gods. That
Not everyone with
yeah,
not everyone thinks that gods are doing good in the world.
and like how do your gods in your world that you've played with, how do they have power? Do they just have the power, or does it come from belief like my world, or does it like
I think I
you
think
know
most come from either belief or like I don't know, magical ability or
yeah?
something of
I
like
mean,
it's a certain like power level, like you've leveled up to God.
like the patrons, it's like the way that I'm going to play them. It's like they're not gods, but they are gods sort of. They are very powerful. You would never want to really meet one.
Well, it's like
Um,
they're gods of their realm.
right, but they can't. But they can
They
just interact with your world a little bit. Like a gust of
yeah,
air
they have
points
they
you in the
have
right
they have
direction, or
they have those threads that reach out into other realms, but they are their god of theirs.
right. Um, so it's sort of up for grabs, obviously, for the players. It's not just the dungeon master; it's also the players. Like if
Hmm.
you're a paladin, I like honestly, I think maybe if I might have to choose when you take over and guest DM for a couple sessions, I think that I might I might do a paladin. I feel like having a
A
little.
not a no Drake.
He might be Drake, but just a paladin. Maybe your guy's time heist has changed the Back to the Future, and
Oh,
and Drake is a paladin. No, I
oh, that would be
I just
hilarious.
like I just like the idea of playing like a strong, stubborn, like maybe he worships a god that doesn't really exist. Maybe it's like a fake a fake
Wh-
god. Maybe that's his backstory. He has a fake. His belief is
I love Drake being a paladin now,
that's hilarious.
a half orc paladin.
He's angry, but he rages, but like with
In gospel to his god.
yeah, yeah,
A little paladin bard multi-class.
yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know if this session truly um, shows the power of a god or playing the gods in a campaign or even a one-off, but I hope it at least shows you some options because as you're saying, you have a lot of magic there that you can really have divine intervention. If you're a DM, you could just like use a random thing that a god did to get you out of like a bad room. Maybe you just set up the room wrong, and
Oh, and every player can have a connection to a god.
oh, different
Like my
god,
rogue
right,
has a faith and has a coin that he flips to tomorrow every day.
right,
And you can find interactions with regular non typically magic or like godly
right,
based connections, and the god can say, "All right, you're gonna make that roll. You're gonna succeed on that roll right now
yeah,
because you've been faithful to me."
exactly. Um, and also like I'll repeat it over and over again. The world building aspect and the creativity that comes along with the gods when you are world building or you're map building, you're making a dungeon or the dungeon is in honor of this god. It makes it sort of like sets the tone for what you know. I have always had this idea that eventually you're going to run into a peaceful god. And that dungeon imagine it's a friendly dungeon. Imagine a friendly dungeon. Like, how would you DM?
It will not be friendly after
Right.
very long
Right.
meeting this party.
Right.
But that sounds. I'm excited to meet the friendly god, the friendly dungeon.
Yeah. Well, I hope that clears up some questions about gods, but I think it does. Honestly, I think that if I had to um, freshly start with a god, I think I would watch this Let's Talk Lore clip and gain a little perspective. Who are we building?
We're gonna build. I know who we're gonna build. We're gonna build something for me.
Roll high and subscribe. I'll see you soon. Let's talk lore.